Look around. Weak men everywhere. Broken, confused, controlled. They have no direction, no purpose, no power. Society laughs at them. Women ignore them. Life humiliates them, and they don't even know why. The truth? The world doesn't care about weak men. It never has, and it never will. It's painful to see, to watch grown men reduced to shadows of themselves, to see them desperate for approval, begging for validation, chasing after people who don't respect them. It's embarrassing. Everything you were told about being a man? Lies. Be soft, they said. Be emotional, they said. Make her your queen, they said. Just be yourself, they said. Look where that got you. Lonely, broke, ignored, invisible. But listen, there's another way. There's a blueprint, a way out. The men who built empires, who led armies, who commanded respect, they all followed 6 unbreakable rules. Ignore them and you'll stay weak. Apply them and everything changes. Before we continue, if you're ready to watch this video till the end, comment, "I'm ready," right now. Your future self is watching. Don't disappoint him. And if you want YouTube to recommend this content to other men who need to hear this, subscribe now. The more you engage, the more men we help. Number 1. Stop explaining yourself. A man who explains himself is a man who seeks approval. A man who seeks approval is a man who puts others above himself. A man who puts others above himself is a man who has already lost. This is the painful truth most men don't want to hear. They'd rather convince themselves that if they explain their thoughts, their choices, their existence to the world, then maybe, just maybe, they will be understood, accepted, validated. But what kind of man lives his life waiting for permission? What kind of man asks the world, "Am I good enough?" Instead of making the world recognize his worth by force? Look around. Weak men everywhere. Walking apologies. Men who can't even take up space without justifying it. Men who lower their voices, shrink their presence, step aside for others, and nod their heads to every demand that comes their way. They hesitate. They over-explain. They desperately want people to see them as good, as kind, as worthy. But respect doesn't come from explanation. Respect comes from presence, from action, from undeniable, unshakable self-belief. If you need to explain your value, you have already lost. If you need to explain why you deserve respect, you don't deserve it. If you need to explain your decisions, then deep down, you're not confident in them yourself. A man who truly believes in his choices never feels the need to defend them. He simply moves, and the world adjusts accordingly. Think of the most powerful men who have ever lived. Did the great warriors of history stop on the battlefield to explain why they were fighting? Did the men who built empires send letters to their enemies explaining their plans? Did the leaders who shaped the world ask for permission before taking what was theirs? Number, because they did not need to. Their actions spoke louder than any justification ever could. But today's men, they walk around with fear in their eyes, second-guessing every word, every action, every move. They are terrified of offending, terrified of standing out, terrified of being seen as different. They explain, apologize, justify, plead for understanding, and in doing so, they make it clear that they are not in control. A high-value man knows what he is. He walks into a room and occupies space. He doesn't ask if he's welcome. He simply is. When he speaks, he doesn't add disclaimers. He doesn't soften his words to make others comfortable. He doesn't ask, "Does that make sense?" at the end of his statements, because he knows it does. Do you know what happens when you stop explaining yourself? The world starts listening. People sense something different in you. They lean in when you speak because you speak with certainty. You become a man of few words, but every word you say carries weight. When you tell someone what you're doing, they don't ask why. They don't challenge you, because they can feel the confidence behind your decision. The next time you make a decision, own it. Say it once, say it clearly, then move on. If someone challenges you, let them. If someone demands an explanation, ignore them. If someone tries to guilt you into justifying yourself, look them in the eye and say nothing. Weak men seek validation. Strong men act. Be a man of action, not words. Number 2, dress like you run the room. A man's appearance is his silent introduction. Before you even open your mouth, you have already told the world who you are, your posture, your clothes, your presence. These things announce your value before a single word leaves your lips. The question is, what are you announcing? Are you walking around dressed like a man who demands respect? Or are you walking around like a man who blends into the crowd, begging to be overlooked? Weak men say, looks don't matter. They convince themselves that clothing is meaningless, that style is for the vain, that appearance is irrelevant to masculinity. They lie to themselves to justify their own laziness. But reality doesn't care about their feelings. When a man walks into a room dressed with power, people notice. They assume competence. They assume status. They assume this is a man worth paying attention to. When a man walks in looking sloppy, looking weak, looking unkempt, people assume he is a nobody, and nobodies get ignored. Look at history, the men who commanded empires, the men who led nations, the men who built legacies that stood the test of time. They understood the power of appearance. They dressed with intention. Their suits were tailored. Their shoes were polished. Their posture was upright. They exuded authority before they even spoke a word. But today's men, they step out in public looking like overgrown children, oversized shirts, hoodies that make them look like they're still in high school, sneakers designed for comfort, not presence, no effort, no dominance, no power. A high-value man dresses like he runs the room. He doesn't wear clothes for comfort. He wears them for power. Every piece of clothing on his body is strategic. He understands that dark colors create a sense of authority, that a well-fitted blazer transforms the way people perceive him, that clean shoes separate him from the masses of men who have no self-respect. This isn't about fashion. This isn't about vanity. This is about sending a message without saying a word. This is about weaponizing your presence. A man who commands respect never has to ask for it. When he walks in, people feel his energy. They sense his dominance. They assume he has power. And in a world where perception dictates reality, that assumption is everything. Weak men will argue against this. They'll say it's unfair. They'll say it shouldn't matter. But those same men will wonder why no one takes them seriously, why no one respects them, why they are ignored when they speak. Because they refuse to accept the truth. A man who doesn't respect himself enough to present himself properly will never be respected by the world. Go stand in front of a mirror right now. Look at yourself. Ask yourself, if you were a stranger, would you respect the man looking back at you? If the answer is no, you already know what you need to do. Throw out the baggy t-shirts. Ditch the sneakers that make you look like a teenager. Learn how to wear a fitted shirt that highlights your physique. Invest in dark, structured clothing that commands presence. Find a watch that speaks power, not desperation. Every single detail matters. When you walk into a room, the first thing people notice is your appearance. The second thing they notice is your confidence. And guess what? The two are connected. When you look powerful, you feel powerful. When you feel powerful, you move with authority. When you move with authority, people listen. This is not about fashion. This is about dominance. This is about walking into any space and making it yours. Dress like you own the world, and the world will start to believe you do. Number 3. Master your physical presence. A man's body is his first form of communication. Before he even opens his mouth, before he makes a single move, his physical presence has already spoken for him, and the world has already made up its mind about him. Strength or weakness, power or irrelevance, command or submission, the way a man carries himself dictates his value before he even says a word. But look at the men around you. Look at how they stand. Look at how they move. Look at how they exist in their own skin. Slouched shoulders, hollow chests, no presence, no dominance. These men look like they're apologizing for being alive. They shrink into themselves. They avoid eye contact. They take up as little space as possible, terrified of confrontation, terrified of existence. And then they wonder why they're ignored, why no one takes them seriously, why when they speak, people talk over them. Weak men have no physical presence because they do not carry themselves with intent. They let their bodies decay, their backs curve, their muscles wither, their movements become hesitant. They look fragile. They are fragile. And the world does not respect fragile men. A high-value man moves with certainty. His shoulders are broad, his chest is high, his steps are controlled. He takes up space. He does not retreat when someone gets close. He holds his ground. His presence is so solid that even in complete silence, people notice. And not because he demands attention, but because he is impossible to ignore. Your body is a direct reflection of your discipline. Look at the strongest men in history, the warriors, the leaders, the conquerors. They understood that strength is not just physical, it is a symbol. A weak body is a weak mind. A soft body is a soft will. A fragile body is a fragile character. Men who train their bodies train their discipline. They forge their mental strength through physical hardship. They know that the body is not just a shell, it is a declaration. Every rep you do in the gym, every mile you run, every moment you push yourself beyond your limits, you are reinforcing a single message to yourself and to the world. I refuse to be weak. Men today are addicted to comfort, addicted to laziness, addicted to the easy way out. They sit in front of screens all day, consuming, 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 as their muscles waste away, as their posture collapses, as their bodies betray them. They've become domesticated, tamed, weakened, and they wonder why they feel powerless. A high-value man does not allow his body to decay. He trains not because he wants to look good for others, not because of vanity, not for attention, but because strength is a duty, because to be a man means to be capable, to be able to fight if necessary, to be able to carry his own weight, to be able to protect what is his. Train like your life depends on it, because it does. You think it doesn't matter? You think your weak frame doesn't change anything? You think people don't notice? Try this. Walk into a room with your shoulders back, your chest up, your posture strong. Walk like a man who owns every step he takes. Watch how people's eyes change when they look at you. Watch how their body language shifts. Watch how the respect is instant, automatic, instinctive. Power recognizes power. Presence commands attention. Now imagine what happens when that posture isn't just a trick. When it's backed by true strength, by a trained body, by physical dominance. When you shake someone's hand and your grip tells them, without words, that you are not a man to be taken lightly. When you stand next to another man, and without saying a word, he knows you would outlast him, outperform him, overpower him. That is what it means to master your physical presence. Train for power. Train for control. Train because a weak man is a liability to himself and to the world. And if you refuse, if you let your body rot, if you walk through life weak, fragile, breakable, then prepare to be disrespected, ignored, and tossed aside. because in the real world, only the strong matter. Number 4. Speak less, mean more. Most men have no idea how to use their words. They talk too much. They talk nervously. They talk without control. They ramble. They fill every silence. They explain and explain and explain until every last drop of their power is drained. And the worst part? They don't even know they're doing it. They think that by talking more, they're being heard. That if they just explain themselves enough, if they just keep going, eventually people will understand them. But the truth? The more you talk, the less people listen. Weak men talk to prove themselves. Strong men do not need to prove anything. A high-value man understands that his words are a weapon, and a weapon that is used carelessly loses its edge. Every word he speaks is calculated. Every sentence has weight. When he speaks, people listen, because they know that when he talks, it matters. Look at the most powerful men throughout history, the kings, the warriors, the leaders. They did not waste words. They did not fill space with unnecessary chatter. When they spoke, they commanded. Their words were short, sharp, decisive, and when they were silent, their presence spoke for them. Compare that to the average man today, fidgeting, nervous laughter, talking just to fill the void, trying to entertain, to impress, to be liked, begging for attention with their words, and they wonder why no one takes them seriously. A high-value man does not beg for attention with words, he commands it with silence. The next time you're in a conversation, say less. When someone asks you a question, answer directly. Do not over-explain. Do not justify. Do not rush to fill the silence. Say what needs to be said, and then stop. Watch what happens. Watch how people lean in. Watch how they pay attention. Watch how your words, once scarce, suddenly become valuable. Weak men speak to be heard. Strong men speak to influence. And if you think silence makes you weak, think again. The strongest men in the world do not talk just to talk. They do not raise their voices unless it is necessary. They do not try to be the loudest man in the room because they don't need to be. When you speak, speak with authority. Slow down, lower your voice, let the weight of your words carry themselves. And if someone tries to argue, if someone tries to bait you into explaining yourself, don't take the bait. Let them drown in their own need for noise. Let them fill the silence with their insecurity. You stay in control. A high-value man does not chase words. He makes words chase him. This is not about being quiet. This is about owning your presence, about knowing that when you do speak, it will matter, about understanding that true power is not in how much you say, but in how little you need to say to get what you want. The weak will keep talking, keep explaining, keep begging to be heard. The strong, they will let their silence speak for them. Number 5, discipline equals freedom. Weak men chase comfort. They live their lives like they have all the time in the world. They hit the snooze button. They scroll endlessly on their phones. They eat garbage, fill their bodies with poison, waste hours on distractions, and then complain about why their lives aren't changing. They live in denial, convincing themselves that they'll get it together tomorrow. But tomorrow never comes. They are prisoners to their own weakness, trapped in a cycle of laziness, addiction, and regret. And then they look at men who are successful, strong, disciplined, and they make excuses. He's lucky. He had better genetics. He had connections. He had discipline. He suffered for his success. He sacrificed pleasure to build something real. Most men will never achieve anything significant, not because they aren't capable, but because they refuse to suffer. They refuse to delay gratification. They refuse to do what is necessary when no one is watching, and that is why they will remain where they are, stuck, stagnant, mediocre. The brutal truth is this: If you do not have discipline, you have nothing. You can be the smartest man in the world, but if you cannot control your actions, your intelligence means nothing. You can be the most talented man in the room, but if you lack the discipline to hone your craft, your talent is worthless. Weak men wait for motivation. They think they need to feel like it before they take action. That's why they fail. The disciplined man doesn't care how he feels. He does what must be done, whether he wants to or not. He trains when he's tired. He works when he's uninspired. He sticks to the plan even when it's boring, even when it's painful, even when it's inconvenient, because he knows that freedom comes from discipline. Most men think freedom means doing whatever they want, whenever they want. But that kind of freedom is an illusion. A man who has no discipline is not free. He is a slave to his impulses. He is controlled by cravings, by urges, by emotions he doesn't understand. He eats what he wants, and his body deteriorates. He spends money recklessly, and he becomes a prisoner to debt. He avoids hard work, and his dreams die before they ever had a chance to grow. He tells himself he's free, but in reality, he is the weakest kind of man. A man ruled by everything except himself. A disciplined man, on the other hand, owns himself. He controls his mind. He controls his body. He controls his emotions. And because of that, he controls his destiny. While others waste their days indulging in distractions, he is building his empire. While others make excuses, he is executing his plan. While others complain about their circumstances, he is shaping his future. You want to be free? Master discipline. Wake up at the same time every day. No excuses. Train even when you don't feel like it. No exceptions. Stick to your diet. No compromises. Set your goals and work towards them relentlessly. No distractions. Live like a machine and watch how the world bends to your will. Watch how your confidence explodes, how your presence shifts, how people start to look at you with respect, because you are no longer a man who is at war with himself. You have conquered your own mind, and there is no greater power than that. Number 6. Women follow, men lead. A man who does not lead is a man who will never be respected. Not by the world, not by other men, not by women. Leadership is not an option. It is the foundation of masculinity. A man who waits for direction, a man who follows instead of leads, a man who hesitates, second-guesses himself, and seeks permission to act. That is not a man, that is a passenger in his own life. A passenger in life will never be respected by men, and he will certainly never be desired by women. Women are drawn to leaders. They are wired to follow men who know where they are going. The moment a woman senses uncertainty in a man, the moment she realizes he is indecisive, unsure, or in need of constant validation, she loses respect. And when respect is gone, attraction dies with it. Weak men today think that catering to women, bending to their every whim, treating them like queens, and following their lead will make them more attractive. That's a lie. That's the conditioning of a weak society that does not want strong men. That's the blue pill fantasy that has destroyed countless lives. Look around. How many men have given women everything they wanted only to be left, disrespected, or ignored? How many men have poured their souls into relationships only to be abandoned for someone stronger, someone more decisive, someone who leads? Women do not respect men who follow. Women do not love men they do not respect. The moment a man hands over the reins of leadership, the moment he makes her the center of his universe, the moment he starts living for her instead of for himself, that is the moment he seals his own fate. A high-value man never makes a woman his purpose. He never lets her become his mission. His mission is his own growth, his own dominance, his own path. His mission is to lead himself first. And because he leads himself, others follow, including women. Women do not follow words. They follow action. A man can claim to be strong, confident, and in control, but if his actions do not align with his words, she will see through him. Women have an instinct, a deep-rooted biological mechanism that allows them to test for true strength. This is why they challenge men. This is why they test boundaries. This is why they subconsciously push, provoke, and try to see where the cracks are. Weak men fail these tests. They become emotional. They seek reassurance. They try to argue and explain themselves. They react instead of remaining unshaken. And when a woman sees a man break under pressure, she knows he is not a leader. She knows he is not the man she wants to follow. A leader does not ask for respect. He does not demand it. He simply is respected because his presence commands it. When he makes a decision, it is final. When he sets a boundary, it is non-negotiable. When he moves with certainty. Look at the most powerful men throughout history, kings, warriors, conquerors. They did not beg for love. They did not ask for permission. They led, and women followed. They built empires, and women wanted to be part of their story. Contrast that with the modern weak man, the man who thinks chasing is the way to win a woman. He pursues, he pleads, he over-explains, over-texts, over-apologizes. He tries to impress instead of being impressive. He puts her desires over his mission, and in doing so, he destroys her attraction. Women do not love weakness. They are not designed to. A woman's biology pushes her toward strength, dominance, and certainty. If you are not that man, if you are not in control of your life, if you do not have direction, purpose, and discipline, she will seek it elsewhere. Weak men think they can argue their way into attraction. They think if they just say the right things, do the right things, buy the right gifts, or write the right texts, they can win her over. But attraction is not a debate. It is a response to strength. A woman does not choose who she is drawn to. It happens at a level beyond logic. The man who leads without hesitation, the man who is unshakable, the man who moves with purpose, that is the man women want. Not the loudest man, not the flashiest man, the most certain man. If you have to ask where you stand with a woman, you've already lost. If you have to convince her of your value, she has already decided you have none. A man who truly leads never finds himself in these situations because he never places himself below a woman in the first place. He never chases because he is the one being chased. A high-value man is not distracted by women. He does not let them derail his focus. He does not sacrifice his ambitions for a relationship. And because of that, women want to be in his world, not because he forced them, but because they recognize his power. When a woman senses a man who is on a mission, a man who is rising, expanding, dominating, she will follow him to the ends of the earth. Not because he manipulated her, not because he played games, but because his strength made her feel safe, because his direction gave her security, because his leadership allowed her to relax into her natural role. Weak men complain about women not respecting them. They blame women for being difficult, for being challenging, for being demanding. But they refuse to see the truth. Women do not respect them because they do not respect themselves. Women do not follow them because they have no direction. Women do not admire them because there is nothing to admire. Fix yourself. Lead yourself, become undeniable, and watch how the world, including women, responds differently. Women follow, men lead. That is how it has always been. That is how it always will be. And the moment you embrace this truth, everything changes. Ignore these 6 rules, and nothing changes. You stay the same, lost, weak, powerless, invisible. Apply them, and everything changes. The choice is yours. If this hit you deep, comment, "I am built different" below. And if you want this message to reach other men who need it, subscribe now. YouTube pushes content based on engagement. The more you like, comment, and subscribe, the more men we wake up. Become the man you were meant to be. The world is soft, but you were born to be strong.